Let's do this. Let me tell you what happens when people vote in a government based on sentiment.
A nation on the brink of bankruptcy. An economy in a meltdown. Sri Lanka.
I've been staring at this picture for a couple of hours now, and a few questions comes to mind. How did the people of Sri Lanka make this family rule them for eternity?
This certainly is the worst economic crisis we have faced during this century and last century.
It's going to be a long-lasting, drawn-out crisis, and we really have to prepare for that.
Why did the Rajapaksas let this country off the cliff? It's about money, it's about greed, yes, it's about family business. It all started back in 1983. Let's go back. Yeah, there. So Sri Lanka, a population of 2 billion people, was fighting a civil war against its own rebel, the Tamil Tigers. I mean, these guys believe they're fighting for liberation. Crazy. It was a bloody affair. The war lasted for 26 years and Sri Lanka was losing it. They were very vulnerable and they needed anyone who can sweep in and help them win the war. And the defense secretary was like, hey guys, I can help you win this war. And people were like, oh, really? They gave him the chance to fight the war. In 2009, the war against the Tamil Tigers ended and Sri Lanka won it. Thanks to this guy who was regarded as the commando, the hero of Sri Lanka. I mean, people were saying that, well, he took soldiers from Ukraine to win the war. The bloody war is over. Who really cares where he got the soldiers from? So Sri Lanka started making a lot of money. They were bouncing back, starting to rebuild houses. And they had a lot of beautiful tourist destinations. So in 2019, bad news struck. Remember the guy that won the war? Yeah, the guy that everyone said he's the commando. I mean, the guy, the hero of Sri Lanka? Yes, him. But wait, who the hell is this guy? He is the president's brother. His name Gotabaya Rajapaksa. President is Mahinda Rajapaksa. So he came out and he said he wanted to be president. I mean, for someone who just won the war for you, you would give him anything he wants, right? But this man doesn't really know anything about running a government. I mean, he's good about fighting war because he's the defense secretary, but he knows nothing about running the country. But the people really never cared. I mean, one thing that really got the people was the promise he made. He told them the fat, big promise ever any politician can tell the people. Vote me in and I will ensure that you will never pay taxes in your entire life. The people were like, oh, really? Yes, they voted him in with all pleasure. And when he got into power, he cut off all the taxes. But no one asked the question, how would the country survive without paying taxes? But wait, these people just voted 2 brothers into government and nobody seems to complain or care about it. I mean, yeah, it's good that this guy won the war. It's another thing to have 2 brothers in government. This is disaster about to happen. As time goes on, Gotabaya brought in more family members to fill government's table. Started with this guy, Basil. He is the finance minister, knows nothing about money. He is the brother to Gotabaya. And after some time, he brought in this other guy, Chamel. I mean, he is his younger brother. 4 brothers were already in power. And then Mahinda decided, well, and since this is a family affair, I want to bring in 2 of my sons. I mean, this is crazy. And he brought in 2 of his sons as sport minister and chief of staff. While the other brother, Chamel, decided to bring in one of his sons as agriculture minister. At this point, Sri Lanka government was filled with family members and it was a family affair. Here's how the big bang started. First, you voted in brothers who brought in family members. And secondly, you voted in someone who decided to take off taxes from you and you were cool with it because you were not paying taxes and the country was not making any revenue, but they were spending a lot of money. So yeah, but they were doing well because they expected that tourism sector, which is like the major sector provided 99% of Sri Lanka income, was booming at the time. In 2020, COVID struck,
shattering the tourism industry, while pushing many who depend on it into poverty. The collapse caused an economic emergency Sri Lanka was running out of money.
I mean, they thought it was just going to be for a short time, which it was actually. Lockdown was lifted. But then Russia invaded Ukraine, which affected Sri Lanka a lot.
It was unprovoked, but this is what Russian President Vladimir Putin unleashed on Ukraine.
So the United Nations has this thing about climate change where they advise countries to please use organic fertilizers. And this guy, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president of Sri Lanka, came up and wanted to impress the United Nations. And he did this.
My government completely banned the use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides and weedicides earlier this year. Production and adoption of organic fertilizer as well as investments into organic agriculture are being incentivized.
Last year, in a highly controversial move, the Sri Lankan government banned the use and import of chemical fertilizers overnight in a bid to become the first country in the world to fully adopt organic farming. While the ban was later reversed after protests, the crop yield was already affected.
So a lot of Sri Lankans started buying more of international rice and foreign beans and grains and the rest of it. Nothing was being stored in Sri Lanka that is produced in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was not producing its own food. It was dependent a lot on international production, where organic fertilizer was not even used, and farmers were losing a lot of money. So yes, the agricultural sector collapsed first, and they started borrowing a lot from China. I mean, China borrowed Sri Lanka a lot of money to build this airport that is useless. I mean, nobody uses it. I mean, Sri Lanka is not the only country borrowing from China. Ask your government. Nigeria, yes. We're just walking a part of Sri Lanka we just don't know yet.
The loans taken from China triggered the misery in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka handed over its crucial port to China in 2017. Sri Lanka's repayment target for this year is $7 billion.
So things got worse, and a lot of people who are in the country started begging friends of Sri Lanka outside the country to send in food. Let me show you how bad it was in Sri Lanka. This is paper. I mean, students use this to write exams, and yeah, in Sri Lanka, exams have been cancelled because they couldn't print paper. It was that bad. They couldn't buy food. In Nigeria, it's a normal scenario. But in Sri Lanka, it was a shocking scenario when the government told them, hey, you just have food that will last the country only for a day, and it's going to be used only on emergency cases. Buying drugs in Sri Lanka was scarce. They were defaulting on foreign debt. Inflation went so high, all-time high like never before. Food prices was high, electricity was a problem, and there is nothing anyone can do about it. It was too late to save the country. This was the fall of everything in Sri Lanka. People couldn't handle it anymore, and they started protesting on the streets. When it became very bad and the people cannot even handle it, the government could not stop them. The president, Gotabaya, decided to change the prime minister and put in someone else who's not a family member. But the people have had enough of this trick, and they were still protesting that he should resign. He stubbornly didn't want to resign until it became very hard on him and his family, and he decided to run away from the country. The country collapsed within weeks.
So it looks like the end of the Rajapaksa family dynasty and the long years of complete control it exercised over this island nation.
The country has made a plea to IMF, but China is not happy with Sri Lanka that they reached out to IMF before reaching out to them for help. Remember, Sri Lanka owes China a lot of money. I mean, first, IMF is saying they have to increase their tax rate before they can be eligible for a loan, a bailout that would save the country. So yes, it's going to be a long time of hardship in Sri Lanka before things get normal. But why am I telling you this story? I'm doing this video because I want you to understand that Nigeria is gradually shifting to this playbook of Sri Lanka. And it's going to happen anytime soon. We're running out of cash so fast. Sri Lanka cannot even produce their own food. We import everything in Nigeria. We have a lot of debt that is higher above our revenue as a country, and nobody's talking about it. Not yet. It's going to get worse someday. Sooner or later, it will. And it's going to affect you, it's going to affect me. With all the wrong choices we're making, and we just hope it doesn't really get that bad. Yeah, we just hope so. So yes, that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and see you in the next one.